This program is about severely handicapped children. It includes scenes of an operation on a newly born baby. Some people may find this distressing.
One child every 4 hours is born in this country suffering with spina bifida. If these facts were known to the general public, and the chances of any mother producing a spina bifida child in this country is pretty high, society will then wake up.
This boy was born this morning with spina bifida. He's got a defect in his back, as you see. It's rather a bad one.
This baby is one of 2,500 children born every year with spina bifida. 10 years ago, the majority died in early infancy. Since then, this operation has been developed. It salvages nearly 1,000 children a year. This means that there are now almost 10,000 survivors, all physically handicapped from the waist down. For most of this 10,000, there are other handicaps. Through lack of facilities, proper schools, and public reluctance, they will not be allowed to develop. Many, although mentally normal, will be classed as imbeciles. The majority will receive little or no education. Tonight, World in Action looks at the children who are hit below the belt.
There's nothing wrong with spina bifida children. They are normal children apart from physically handicapped, possibly from the waist down. They must have the same chance in life. And I cannot stress strongly that these spina bifida children will have to earn their living by their brains. They cannot have any physical work offered to them because they will not be able to do it. So therefore they must be allowed to develop their brain power. And unless society will give them the opportunity in the forms of proper facilities, education facilities, I'm afraid these children will eventually become a drain on society.
Spina bifida does not hit all children equally. Some will eventually walk. Some will always need sticks or wheelchairs. And because the lower nerves have been destroyed, many have no control below the waist. They are incontinent. But the most serious side effect is hydrocephalus, water on the brain, which leads to the fallacy that all the children are mentally retarded. Once the back has been closed, the pressure of spinal fluid can increase, making the head swell enormously. A drain valve has to be inserted in the head to relieve this, otherwise the brain is destroyed. For the parents, the shock of facing their newborn baby can be overwhelming. 5 years ago, Mrs. Gwyneth Raymond's daughter was born with spina bifida.
I wanted her to die. It was the only thing I could think of. Because I knew that this damage to her spine would result in paralysis. And I was told that her brain would be damaged. And I just went blank. It was an awful feeling. I just didn't want her. But now I'd like to say that I am very glad that if she had to be born, that I had her. I think she's a marvelous child. But then I thought, oh, let her die. Of course, I believe very differently now. But I can well imagine that lots of other people, when their child like this is born to them, feel the same as I did.
10 years ago, it would have needed more faith and reason to educate all spina bifida children. Now, with advanced surgical techniques, the brain can be saved. 85% of them are mentally normal and can be educated. Ivor Davis, another parent.
Unless they do something, in 5 years' time, there'll be the first 1,000 or so children entering this sort of medium, hotly pursued with another 1,000 the next year and another 1,000 the year after. And this is a continuous a process of survival. And possibly in 5 years' time, there'll be possibly 1,500 children every year appearing at the grammar school and the secondary modern school for education.
Ivor Davis's son Andrew is now 5. At first totally immobile, he taught himself to walk with fixed calipers and then sticks. His IQ is over 100. He is also incontinent. He has no control over his bowels or bladder.
It's very difficult. Although he's capable of walking without the aid of sticks, he's completely independent, he's still got this problem of incontinence. We have tried to get Andrew into a school, which we were prepared to pay, but as soon as you mention the fact that the child is incontinent, they immediately find loads of excuses that it wouldn't be in the child's interest to come here. In other words, they do not wish to face this problem.
And then well, it's not anger, it's just terrible fear of the lack of education. I think this is the most terrible problem. I'm worried about it. I'm not only just worried about it when they're 5. I'm worried about it when they reach the 11 plus or whatever that will be then. These children may need grammar school education. Well, it only exists in one school in the country. And this is only a privately endowed school. It's not a school run by the education committees. If a child is capable of grammar school education, it cannot have it if it's physically handicapped, except under very, very rare circumstances. And yet, well, we're calculating that something like about 800 children a year will reach the age of 5. So in other words, 800 children every year will almost certainly not have proper education. And I think in this country, I think that's an atrocious thing.
The only school in the country for full-time education of spina bifida children is Coney Hill in Kent. It started through charity in 1959. It can take just 69 pupils. These are the lucky ones.
They soon come to the farm again. You can see that.
That's very good. Have you ever seen a sheepdog?
Yeah.
You have? Where have you seen a sheepdog? You haven't seen a sheepdog. What do you think they have a sheepdog for? To look after the sheep, that's right, yes.
Coney Hill provides a normal general education. Sticks, wheelchairs and incontinence apart, its children are like any others.
How old are you, Alan?
10.
And how long have you been here?
2 years.
What do you like doing best here?
Sums and writing.
Sums and writing. So what does that mean you're going to be when you grow up? Any ideas?
I said, a baker.
A baker? Why do you want to be a baker?
Because my dad's one.
Oh, I see. Who did you say your best friend is?
Patsy.
What do you do with her?
Play with her.
What do you like doing best?
Like playing with her in her bedroom.
Do you go out at all much from here?
Yes.
Where do you go?
We like playing outside.
Do you go swimming ever?
No.
How do you get around? Do you use calipers or sticks or what? Or you?
I can walk all the way.
When did you learn to do that?
Quite a long time.
How old are you now then?
8.
And when did you learn to walk? Long time ago. Was it?
Yes.
Can you run?
Yes.
Do you ever have races here?
No.
What are you going to be when you grow up, do you think?
Nurse.
A nurse?
For every one child at Coney Hill, there are 150 outside who won't have the same chance.
The only provisions that some authorities make is they say, well, yes, your child can go to special school, A or B or whatever it happens to be, but when it comes down to it, the special school is a special school, but it's for mentally handicapped children, not physically handicapped children. So physically handicapped children go into classes with mentally handicapped children, which I think is a terrible thing, because the physically handicapped child with a normal intelligence will just be retarded. They cannot be taught as it should be. And to have a child, a human being that's got a normal brain, or may even be brighter than normal, to be pulled down, to be dragged down, when for a child with these defects, its only hope in life is its brain. It's got to use its brain to get anywhere. You can't walk, so there are a lot of jobs you can't do, but there are a heck of a lot of jobs you can do as long as you've got enough training, enough help of your brain to do them. And so every little bit of power that the child has got must be utilised to the full.
Coney Hill does use its pupils to the full. They're encouraged to mix with local people, to swim in the public baths, and to visit the local library.
No, Brett will have to open a footrest up.
They themselves don't feel shut away from society, but society tends to reject the imperfect.
It has always been known that the British thinks more of animals than they do of children. And I feel the priorities are completely wrong in this country. If there was animals were born with spina bifida in this country, I can assure you that some old dear would leave £60,000 for pure research to eliminate spina bifida. But are we unduly worried in this country? We are not unduly worried. We launched a spina bifida campaign. It was rather unfortunate that we launched at the same time that the baby cub, the polar bear cub, made its public debut at London Zoo. That attracted 150 photographers. It had mass coverage. But at the same morning, we launched our campaign for 8,000 severely handicapped children. We have a little bit of coverage in the newspapers, and they are the newspapers where we had to spend and borrow money from parents to pay for advertisements in this newspaper. These are the only newspapers that actually put a little coverage. And it's pretty tragic that the day that we were launched, that the press found that they could find more news value in a little tiny cub. It would have been a wonderful day for spina bifida children if that polar bear was born with a spina bifida.
1, 2.
It costs £18 a week for every child at Coney Hill. Local education authorities contribute to the cost for those children they send here from various areas. Even so, the school runs at a loss of more than £4,000 a year. Every year, it has to be bailed out by charity.
10. Down.
We must provide money for research. It is frustrating and annoying to me to read in the paper that for the want of £30,000 to re-equip one of the major hospitals in the southeast of England who deals with the majority of spina bifida children in the southeast England. It is pretty frustrating to me to find that this £30,000 to re-equip this antiquated, and it is antiquated, hospital, theatre and post-operative wing. When £30,000 was required, it was denied them because of cuts. And yet I see that the Minister of Sport glibly announced that £100,000 is being spent on a sailing centre so that the youth of this country can learn to sail. For goodness sake, all we want for our children is the facilities so that all spina bifida children in this country has the same crack of the whip, and this money will be allocated in the right priority. I'm not denying any child having facilities for sport, but please, let's get our priorities right.
These children are the tip of the iceberg. Because the operation has been such a recent success, only now are the survivors reaching school age. In 5 years' time, the numbers will almost double. They will all need special education.
Right, turn and go. Go on, Robert. Your ball, Robert, challenge him. Go on, Mark.
Well, although it may seem so, we don't live a life really apart from the world. We do mix with the people in the outside world, so we know what it's like. You sort of make it sound as if we live in a jail here, and we don't ever get out and never do anything except sit around and play chess and play guitars and do that. But we do go out and walk about and watch games of football and things.
Not only watch, Coney Hill regularly fields a team, always against a normal side. They win on average half their matches.
That's it. Don't keep. Place keeper.
The children at Coney Hill fight off the field as well. They are resilient to criticism, particularly anyone who dismisses them as mentally inferior.
I say he's wrong. 'Cause they're not. I mean, they're humans. I mean, they can sort of do other jobs that other people can't do. I mean, I wouldn't call them imbeciles.
And I think maybe the person who said that we're imbeciles is more of an imbecile himself than we are.
I'd return the compliment to him about calling us imbeciles, and I say he was an exceedingly illiterate fool himself. I think he hasn't the vaguest idea what goes on in these schools.
The children of Coney Hill see themselves as useful citizens. Surgeons, parents and authorities apart, they are their own best advocates for their right to live.
If I can make worthwhile life, then society does owe me a living, because I'm just as much entitled to a living as anybody else. As Ian said, I'm not perfect, but how many people can you find that are perfect? I mean, I'm not, or maybe, there may be some people handicapped as I am, who won't earn a living, who live off the state. Well, why not shoot all the prisoners? I mean, every prisoner is supported by the state, and he's not doing anything. Not contributing towards the state. So why not shoot them all? And if you say that euthanasia is the answer for severely handicapped people, who's going to decide who should live and who should die? Why should they die? They haven't done anything. It's not their fault.
If you're really crippled, how can you expect to cope?
Well, have you ever heard of a challenge?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing to try and try and take a challenge and do something with it. Not just sit back on your heels and say, oh, well, this is impossible.
Do you think special allowances should be made for you, and if so, how much?
I don't think special allowances. Allowances as some people need, yes. You should recognise what a person can and can't do. And it depends on the individual. If he says he's going to do something and he really perseveres and does do that, then he's going to make his life worthwhile. And other people probably will respect him for it.
They're wrong, aren't they? Because we can. We've proved it.
How have you proved it?
That we are now. We can walk, we can do anything that anybody else can. Just as well.
I think just because they may have certain difficulty in walking or speech, they're not they aren't set apart from society.
Do you think you've got something special to offer? that other people haven't?
Nothing out of the ordinary, but I think we can do things just as nearly as well as most ordinary people can. Or at least we can have a jolly good try.
I don't want pity. I mean, everybody wants sympathy once in a while, but there's a difference between sympathy and pity.
Just because someone can't perhaps use their hands or use their feet or can't speak, I mean, you don't go off and shoot them because they can't manage as well as everybody else, do you?
If you just sit down and say, I can't cope, that's that, then that's going to be, you're not going to cope, are you? You're not going to be able to survive on equal terms with everybody else.
Well, how are you going to cope when it comes to leaving here and getting a job?
Well, I won't be able to do some things that other people will do, obviously, but I shall just do what I can. And what I can do, I shall do well.
I may not be able to walk, but I've got brains, you see, which I can use, which does help immensely.
It's not us who've got to face life. It's them who have got to face us. They're not willing to face up to the problem. There are people like us, and a lot of people like us, that you have to make allowances for. They just want to say, right, they can't fit in the world, they can't do what we can do, so shoot the lot. That's wrong. They're the ones who are running away, not us. That's what I think.